Thank you for coming. Today I have a presentation about my thesis with supervisor Dr. Mohammad Reevany, Bustami, Center for Policy Research and International Studies, Malaysia, University of Malaysia, USM. So my title, this is titled this, The Religious Patriarchy and Political Modernity, Shia of Iraq and Problematic, the Taqlid and Citizenship. Doctor, just I want to ask you, problematic or problem? What is the good word?
Yeah, I'm noting those things now. We will go back to your title in a minute. Just go through first.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm making notes. Continue.
Okay. I used in the third chapter introduction, this is paragraph conceptual framework and terminologies. So I used 5 concepts to illustrate them for my thesis or from examiner or people in the future they want to read my thesis, inshallah. The first one, the religious patriarchy. This means the vertical and hierarchical relationship between the cleric and the normal people. The second one, the political modernity, the democratic system, rational authority, liberalism, individualism, equality, pluralism, citizenship. 12 Shia, sect Islamic, they are make up majority of the Iraqi society, approximately 69%. The Taqlid, the relationship between the Grand Cleric Ayatollah and their followers according to obedience principle and imitation. Citizenship, individual's right, the equality before law, the national identity within geographical boundaries. Okay, this is a diagram show the terminologies. 12 Shia lead to the religious patriarchy, Taqlid, and political modernity lead to citizenship.
You want to explain a bit more?
Okay. You know 12 Shia, Doctor. I explain in my thesis, I write more about that. 12 Shia, this is mean Shia Shia mind, mentality. Shia mind or Shia mentality. This is made up more than 1,000 years. And this is the culture or Shia behavior or Shia perspective to the world according to the religious patriarchy, because we have high high classes, cleric classes. This is control on the Shia society or the Shia behavior, and they direct the people to their behavior, their religion, their society, their organization, and also their political. And based on Taqlid. The Taqlid, this is method for the Shia cleric, and this is established, this is Taqlid, by religious law, al-Fiqh, and support this Taqlid because they give to people the Ayatollah or cleric. This is like the beauty of Imam Mahdi, the absent Imam, the descendant of Muhammad the Prophet, and the people in that time, they emulate Muhammad the Prophet, and after Muhammad the Prophet, they emulate the 12 Shia, 12 Imam Shia, and after the 12 Imam Shia, the Ayatollah become like represented to the Imam, absent Imam Mahdi, until he come again in the future. So until the Shia people link with the cleric, link with this institution, they establish this Taqlid and support this is by original law. So now every individual, especially if he become adult, 30 or 40 or 15 years, he should emulate one of Ayatollah. He should choose the most knowledgeable Ayatollah until he follow him and follow his fatwas, follow his regulations and instructions. So this is Shia 12 based on religious patriarchy and taqlid, according to my thesis, according to my observation. And political modernity, this is a different way. Political modernity based on the rational authority, democratic system, or a constitution, or like this. And also this leads to citizenship. Citizenship is different here because citizenship based on the liberalism, equality, pluralism, and justice is different here, different between taqlid and citizenship. So I explained all this terminology in my thesis.
Okay, proceed. Let me see. So you relate religious patriarchy with Shia. You also relate Taqlid with Shia, right?
Yes,
the
right.
12 Shia. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And citizenship here, you are connecting political modernity. You associate with certain terms with equality and all that, right?
Yes, right. Because Doctor, with the modernization in Europe, appeared to us the citizenship, but Taqlid before that maybe 1,000 year.
Taqlid?
Taqlid before citizenship 1,000 year, because Taqlid is ancient concept, ancient term. Citizenship is a new term. The concept is different now. It's very different now. I will explain that later.
All right, good.
I don't know why this don't move.
It's not moving?
No move. Why? I don't know why. Okay.
There? Okay, just click on it.
Click where?
Or enter. Can you enter?
Oh, okay. This problem statement. Okay. The political culture of the Shia community is based on the emulation taqlid, since the Ayatollah is the beauty of the absent Imam Mahdi, and therefore individuals must emulate the most knowledgeable Ayatollah who directs their religious behavior, knowing that the Shia faith contains in the integrated system through the vision of the world and behavior. The vision is based on the basis that the earth is ruled by the infallible Imam, the successor of the Prophet Muhammad. And since the infallible Imam is absent now, the Ayatollah is his deputy general representative, and he represents the Imam on earth. This belief is integrated from the political, economic, social, and legal interpretation. This vision or belief can be organized through fiqh, religious law, and those it is necessary for individuals must be assigned to the marja, ayatollah, through the principle of taqlid, which is based on the principle of obedience. Those we have the marja or the ayatollah who represents the patriarchal religious system that rests on the basis of taqlid, the principle of obedience, this religion and social culture based on. Okay. 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 Since 1230, the Iraqi society has been ruled by the democratic regime. This regime had distributed authority on sectarian and ethnic basis according to the Iraqi constitution. The majority in Iraq are Shia. That is why the prime minister position is their share. But because of this regime, the Iraqi society suffered from corruption, terrorism, and conflict among the political parties. One of these problems is the overlap of the religious and political authorities. This overlap resulted to Shia failure in ruling country. The Grand Cleric directed his followers through fatwas, and thus the Shia social structure is based on this hierarchy. Therefore, there are two schools of Shia. The first one is the guardianship of al-Faqih, which is represented in the Iranian regime where Khomeini is the supreme leader, Wilayat al-Faqih, and the founder of it. The second school is the nation's self-guardianship, Wilayat al-Ummah, which is represented in Sistani today, Najaf city. Both schools have their influence on the structure of the Shiite mind in building a democratic state. The contradiction is that the religious authority is traditional and an absolute authority, whilst the democratic system is a modern and relatively system. This diagram maybe show the problem statement. The religious patriarchy and taqlid, the modernity, political and citizenship. If this mixed together, this lead to the contradiction in the political system. Research questions. What is the religious patriarchy? What is the Shia patriarchy? What is the political modernity, especially in Iraq? What are the limits of the fiqh emulation, taqlid, and what is the citizenship? How does the religious patriarchy affect the democratic system in Iraq? How can we distinguish between taqlid and citizenship or build a civil democratic system? Research objectives. The research objective of this study will be determined through the research questions above as follows. Exploring religious patriarchy from the depths of history to monotheistic religions, which leads to the exploration of Shiite patriarchy and the system of taqlid. Exploring the concept of political modernity and citizenship through sociological theories. Describe the state of the Iraq Shiite mind through the behavior of taqlid of the religious marja and its relationship to political behavior, especially post 2003. Understanding and explaining the political religious vision of Shiite theology and its opposition to political modernity. Also understanding and explaining conflict of taqlid with the principle of citizenship. Knowing how to change the current social situation among the Shiite of Iraq and to become up with a new vision that preserves the status of political modernity, the democratic system, and this principle of citizenship on the one hand, and on the other hand, it preserves the position of the Shiite religious institution and the system of taqlid. Significance of the research. The significance of this study lies on the study of religious patriarchy through its historical and social development, leading to the religious patriarchy in monotheistic religions and this preamble. It is an introduction to the study of Shiite patriarchy. Thus, through the literature review, we found that this term of topic lacks sufficient studies to its cover sociological and anthropological. Thus, it is possible for this study to be a project to establish a theory of religious patriarchy, especially in the monotheistic religions or the Middle East, and the impact of the culture on establishing the democratic system and political modernity, because the gap between religious patriarchy and political modernity is a great starting through the vision of the world and social and political behavior. This study attempts to distinguish and separate those two topics on the one hand, and on the other hand, and attempts to reconcile them for the public interest. The subject of studying the overlap between religious patriarchy and political modernity in this study is the Shiite of Iraq and their management of the democratic system after 2003, where the Shiite patriarchy is based on taqlid. The individual emulates and obeys Ayatollah while political modernity and the democratic system are based on citizenship and social democracy. This topic does not, it is carefully treated by researchers as shown in the literature review. Therefore, the significance of this study also lies in studying the current social problem in the Shiite of Iraq. Scope and limitation of the research. The scope and limitation of the study are determined by the title of the research, where Iraq and Shiite was mentioned in the title. Iraq as a complete society that has religious, sectarian, and ethnic diversity, while the Shiite lives in the Middle East and some parts of the world. Therefore, this study is concerned with the Shiite of Iraq only, who lives in the center and south of the capital, Baghdad, to the southern city of Basra. As for why the Shiite of Iraq and not others from other sects, this comes because the Shiite of Iraq are the majority of Iraqi society, where their population is about 69%, and they are considered the most powerful political actor in the shaping the democratic and political system in Iraqi society. Therefore, the study focused on religious patriarchy and the Shiite Taqlid system and its impact on political modernity, the democratic system, and citizenship. The study also focused on the political role of the Shiite after 2003 until this moment. But in order to understand the culture of the Shiite mentality and how it was formed, the researcher went to the history of the Shiite thought, as he touched on the Shiite of Iran more than once, because there is a close connection between the Shiite of Iraq and the Shiites of Iran. Once to study Shiism, it is necessary to mention these two countries. This map shows us the Shia distribution in the Middle East sector. In Iraq, this is percentage Shia, maybe 69%. In Syria, 13%. Azerbaijan, 75%. Qatar, 20%. Bahrain, 60%. Yemen, 34%. Afghanistan, 10 to 15%. Saudi Arabia, 10 to 15%. Kuwait, 20%. Pakistan, 10 to 15%. Iran, 95%. Bahrain, I mentioned Bahrain before. And this is Iraqi society, the diversity of Iraqi society. The majority Shia, if you look to this color, this is a green color, this is Shia live. And this is the color and yellow, this is Shia and Sunnah together live. So for example, Shia Arab, this is color. Sunnah Arab, this is color yellow. Sunni Kurd, this is color, yellow and red. Shia and Sunni, this is color, red and yellow. Sunni Kurd and Arab, also this. So Shia, this is a percent, 64, 69%, and Sunni 29, 34%, and Kurd 50 to 20%. Theory diagram and literature review. I used the main theory in my thesis is Max Weber theory, because Max Weber theory can explain my thesis, because my thesis search about three topics: traditional authority, charismatic authority, and rational authority. So the Max Weber theory authority type is, you know, this I just talk. This is type or this is specific theory for Max Weber, because Max Weber he gave many theories in modern sociology. So this is the third type is traditional authority, charismatic authority, rational authority for Max Weber. Okay. In Iraq, charisma rule or authority interfere in three situations. Interfere with the charisma traditional and charisma traditional rationality and charisma bureaucracy, and democracy. But if you look to this dictator, charisma with rational, traditional authority lead to pre-modernity. Pre-modernity, the society ruled by charisma and traditional, like prophets, like leaders, like gods, like this, or like leaders of tribe in that time before modernity. And if you look to this, charisma rational, because we today in the modern states we have bureaucracy and democracy, and also this need to charisma. For example, in management, and the president, or in the head of university, if this is have a charisma personality, he will give good service to the office. So charisma plus bureaucracy plus democracy lead to rationality. But the problem here, if the charisma or the traditional or the rationality lead to contradiction, and this is a problem in Iraq nowadays. So also I use, this is complement theory with the Max Weber, rational authority democratic system, Parsons theory of social system, and also Giddens, Anthony Giddens' third wave theory, social democracy, and Marshall civil, political, and social right theory of citizenship. Traditional and charisma authority exist together in the culture of the Iraqi Shia community and are exercised through the Booking emulation technique according to the theorem religious patriarchy, Jibril Tad. Jibril Tad, he used or he gave this theory, emulation theory. I use this in literature review on theory framework. Religious patriarchy literature review, I use Frederick Engels with his book Patriarchy. He said patriarchy began with the beginning of the private property. But Gerda Lerner, the patriarchy, said the patriarchy began with the beginning of the state in Mesopotamia in Iraq. Sigmund Freud, the patriarchy began with the beginning of the killing of a primitive father, where due to guilt, the totem and taboo laws were established, and this event became repeated as in Judaism and Christianity. Studies have shown that the Arab Islamic society is patriarchy based on tribe and religion. Conclusion about that, literature review and their framework. Patriarchy is directly related in the male dominance over women, but according to my observation, this dominance came from other factors, whether state or social objection, because we also saw that men undergo the system. We need to examine this object's origins because patriarchy has embedded in leaders or religious authority according to human history, and Christianity history is not far away from us. I have mentioned two political sociology theorists in the modern age, Tuckett Parsons and Anthony Giddens. We saw show modern society moving toward the complex social system for Parsons and social liberties that are outside political liberties for Giddens. Also, I reviewed some studies about the democracy in Iraq. Through these studies about Iraq, we saw that democracy linked with the Grand cleric Ayatollah, and this what made a gap between Iraqi society and modern society in an issue of success the democratic process. According to contemporary political sociology, the political system is related to social culture. Therefore, the studies in anti-Shia policy in post-2003 Iraq lacking to study the social culture for Shia of Iraq, where that religious patriarchy by emulation negatively affected on achieving democracy in Iraq. So this study seeks to release the Shia mind from the emulation in public state by forming public opinion and civil society and citizenship, where everyone become a political actor about emulation. The study of Shia of Iraq. Dr. Al-Wardi, if you know that, Dr. Muhammad, this is the established of Iraqi sociology in Iraq. He studied Iraqi culture. He said the Iraqi person or personality in Iraq is dual personality, a clash between Bedouinism and civilization and social dissonance in Iraq. Yatizik Nakash, he studied in his book Shia of Iraq, he said class unity, Najaf and Karbala emerged as a holy cities and the influence of the Iranian. Dr. Falah Abdul Jabbar, the Shia movement in Iraq, migration from the Bedouins of the countryside and from the countryside to the urban areas in the mid 20th century. For Khattab Hamdan, the development of Iraqi Shia mourning rituals in modern Iraq, the Ashura ritual and visitation of the Arba'in in Karbala. And also my study here, I show my study because my study in master degree, sociology of the public religiosity and interpretative study of Ashura ritual. The Shia of Iraq made, and this study maybe give us how the Shia Iraq made up or formed. This is diagram also show the Iraqi Shia and the Patriarchy. Shiism consists of belief and social existence. The charismatic authority of the Prophet and the 12 grandchildren of Imam, the dictatorian of acculation. After the acculation, authority is transferred to the jurists and mujtahideen, 4th century AH. 18th, 19th century establishment of the Iraqi Shia community through the conversion of the southern and central tribes to Shiism and the emergence of the Grand Ayatollah Marja'iyah. Conclusion about Shia of Iraq. Despite the origins of Shiism in Iraqi and Arab, and that is stationed about the faith with Muhammad the Prophet and his 12 descendants, but this Iraqi Shiism has affected by many factors as illustrated in the above literature review as follows. The Shia mind has formed from the tribal culture because Shia of Iraq is an integral part of Arab, consisting of clans and tribes. Because of control the Safavid state on Shia of Iraq, the Iraqi Shia society has been affected in Persian culture by clerical class and political control and migration and common factors between the two countries. The Ashura ritual considered an essential factor in forming the Shia identity and their vision toward the world. Therefore, through this conclusion, we will know how religious patriarchy and the emulation formed Ayatollah and his followers, and reflected that into Iraqi political reality nowadays, because the culture an essential role plays in forming the veterans' culture for society. The contradiction between patriarchy and political modernity leads to the hybridization of the system. The study, I study on Iraqi society, the conflict between the old and the modern, and between the Bedouin culture and civilization, lead to duality of the Iraqi personality. The Sham Sharabi study on Arab society, there the overlap between the traditional patriarchy and modernity lead to the emergence of a new distorted patriarchy. Some studies have shown that the overlap between Shia religious authority and the democratic system lead to the hybridization of the democratic system. Taqlid and citizenship. The study of other fiqh taqlid and culture of tradition. Because of the fiqh taqlid, society has become a traditional culture. This culture contradicts the building of citizenship and civil society. Abdul Karim Saroush studies heritage and secularism. Tradition is based on obligations, while citizenship is based on rights. Conclusion about taqlid and citizenship. We are concluding that emulation become a social culture has been practicing it relatively in space and time dimension, and it does not issue only in religious and justice aspects, but it is extended to the other aspects, sociological, political, and epistemological. Additionally, the fiqh emulation become religious patriarchy as a kind of guardianship in nation and individuals. Therefore, there is a negative relationship between juristic emulation and political reality has resulted in the distorted political system. Citizenship represented in right firstly, and these rights are promoting according to the economic, political, and social changes. And these rights granted by social institutions, social culture, and struggle. As for in the Iraqi side, there is a democratic system, but there is no citizenship. One of the reasons is the interference of the jurisprudential emulation in politics. Therefore, Iraqi needs to historical and political culture qualify it to build up citizenship. This is a table shows the difference between taqlid and citizenship. Taqlid depends on the obligation first, for citizenship right first. People emulating mujtahidis lead to women being obedient to men. Citizenship are equal before the law as well as gender. Divine law, positive law. Patriarchal society, civil society. But what outside geographical boundaries, citizenship within geographical boundaries, sectarian identity, national identity. So now methodology. I use deductive research strategy because I use the theories in literature review and theoretical framework. So I went to investigate these theories with my idea, with my thesis, if this accept or rejected with these theories in the future in my finding on last. So deductive research known as the hypothetical deductive method or falsificationism was developed by Popper to overcome the deficiencies of positivism and the inductive strategy. Deductive research involves the statement of the questions and the conclusion drawn from it, the collection of appropriate data to test the conclusion and the rejection or corroboration of the conclusion. The researcher will rely on theories, and this is the thesis theory plus literature review. Main theory is Max-Weber theory for authority types and complementary theories such as Parsons and Giddens in political modernity, Marshall in citizenship, and Gibraltar in the emulation taqlid. Therefore, the starting point of the research will be from Max-Weber's theory of the three authorities and other theories. Their researcher will try to test these theories by collecting and analyzing data to see if that experience match these theories or they need to be modified or rejected. The name of social this is table shows the theories I used in my thesis. The name of social scholar, the name of theory subject. Max Weber, three authority, religious patriarchy, and political modernity. Tackett Parsons, social system, political modernity. Tony Giddens, social democracy, political modernity. Marshall, citizenship and social class citizenship. جبريل emulation theory تكليب. So this is a diagram also show how can I will use the theory in my thesis. Shia mentality, Shia state constitution. Shia mentality based on Ayatollah Marja'iyya system taklid. State constitution based on democratic system citizenship. The theories explain this is phenomenon. Marcus Weber, traditional and charismatic theory, Gibraltar emulation. Democratic system or theories explain this is social system. Marcus Weber, rational and charismatic theory, Tuckett Parsons social system, and Tony Giddens social democracy, citizenship Marshall. Research design. The researcher will use the mixed method, MMR, the qualitative method and the quantitative method to answer the research question and collect and analyze data. However, the qualitative method will be the main method in the research, while the quantitative method will be in assistance to the qualitative method to research sufficient evidence to answer the research question. Data collection. Quantitative data, the quantitative approach as a primary source of data and analysis. The quantitative approach focuses on words rather than numbers. It looks at the research setting from the viewpoint of deep understanding rather than micro-analysis of limited variables. The interest in the stories and the experience of people in the natural setting. Quantitative research looks for themes, theories, and general patterns to emerge from the data. The methods of data collection and the quantitative approach of this thesis are as follows. Historical sources, including data collection, documents, manuscripts, academic sources, even media interviews, and everything related to the historical stages of the study's research. Therefore, the collection of historical sources and related documents from the establishment of the phenomena of religious patriarchy in human society to the Shiite patriarchy and the system of Taqlid and the relationship of Shiite patriarchy in political modernity that began at the beginning of the 20th century. Observation. Observation is one of the most important means used by social and natural researchers in collecting information and facts. And there are several types of observation, such as compound observation, participation observation, direct observation, and symbol observation. The research used direct observation and participation observation because the researcher is a member of the community and this practices political and religious behavior. As for the duration of this observation, it will be from 2003 to the present time, when in that year I was 50 years old and I noticed the religious and political movements that accompanied the American invasion of Iraq. I have also noticed all the religious and political phenomena and their changes to the present time. Therefore, I can monitor the phenomena of patriarchal, the religious patriarchy and Taqlid and its impact on the structure of political modernity, the democratic system, and citizenship. Quantitative data. There are several methods for collecting quantitative data, such as censuses, social surveys, digital data, etc. However, the researcher relied on a social survey by selecting a specific symbol of the society. Therefore, the researcher's choice of the symbol will be exploratory and random. As for the method of taking their opinions, it is through the questionnaire that the symbol does not exceed 200 individuals. They are selected on the basis of the primarily data of the questionnaire. This symbol will be exclusively from the central and southern Iraqi regions, with a Shiite majority who have lived with their political experience since 2003 until now. Therefore, their opinion will support the title of the research, the problem and the questions, as these opinions will be secondary data complementary to the quantitative data of the research in order to obtain strong results for the social phenomena to be studied. This is mixed method MMR, quantitative data, historical sources observation, quantitative data social survey lead by questionnaire. Thank you. Terima kasih. Shukran lakum.
Okay, welcome. Sama-sama. Terima kasih kembali. So you can also say, instead of sama-sama, after you say terima kasih, you can also say terima kasih kembali. Thank you to you too. We have two new friends coming in, two new family members of our postgraduate right here. One is the one who I've greeted just now, Yue Feng, and then the other one is Li Yue, just came in. Okay. Pronounce your names correctly.
Good afternoon. I'm Xu Li Yue. It's my honor to be here.
Okay, welcome. Good to have you. We just completed listening to Muhtadi's presentation or presentation in group, right? So now what I'll do is I'll share my thoughts with Muhtadi. By the way, Liet, the one who helped you to bring you in, because I was having some problems letting you in just now, was Raji. Raji is the brain behind technology. He always helps me, right? So he's the one, Raji. So you want to thank, you can thank Raji.
Okay, thank you so much.
Raji is also a colleague of yours, is doing his master's here. So Muhtadi, there are a lot of things that I'd like to share my inputs with you. Let's start with our compass first, right? So I want to look at your research questions, and then I want to look at your title again, because the title we want to reflect the research questions, right? We want to develop the title from the research questions. Let's look at your research questions again. As I said before, research questions are your compass, right? So what is religious patriarchy? What is Shiite patriarchy? What is political modernity, especially in Iraq, right? Okay, you're asking that. What are the limits of fiqh? How do you pronounce this word in Arabic?
Emulation.
Fiqh. How you say fiqh?
Fiqh, yes.
Fiqh. Okay.
In Arab say fiqh.
Huh? Arab said?
In Arab say fiqh.
Fiqh.
Yes.
Fiqh. All right. In Malaysia, we have this word. It is a religious word.
I know you have this word.
It is in Malaysia it's called fiqh with the A, right? The Indonesian would say fikih with the I. Yeah, so Malaysia fiqh, Malaysia fiqh. So now let me understand. Let me ask you a very important question, which is the most foundational question involved, right? You are interested to look at patriarchy, am I right?
Right.
That's the thing that you want to study.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yes, that's the phenomena that you want to study.
Phenomena I want to study and establish. Maybe this is in the future. I will develop this is phenomena in my studies in the future after PhD.
All right. So you want to study patriarchy in the context of Iraq?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Good. Beautiful. That is a very important foundational question I want to ask. So once you have that clarity, then the next other things we discuss will be much more logical. Yeah. So you want to study patriarchy in the context of Iraq. You want to study patriarchy in the context of contemporary Iraq, right?
Right.
The present Iraq, right? So,
Right.
and everything else is about explaining why there is patriarchy in Iraq right now.
Yes.
Am I right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
you want to see, you want to understand, you want to analyze what leads to patriarchy in Iraq,
Right.
right? Okay. And so that is fundamental. That is strong. That is you know, the main focus of your research. You also brought in democracy, right? So
Yeah.
where do you place democracy in your research? Are you seeing it something that leads to patriarchy or can help patriarchy, or you're not studying democracy, you're studying patriarchy, right? But you're studying democracy in relation to patriarchy. Is that what you're studying?
Yes, because democracy, this is a new system, came after 2003, after America invasion Iraq. This is the system is very different from the old system or old culture in Iraq, patriarchy.
Yes.
For this reason, when the overlap or when the conflict between old system and new system lead to the contradiction. So I need the problem here happened, the problem here events and happened here. We have old system, patriarchy, religious patriarchy, and we have a new system or modern system, democratic system. So because the culture in Iraq cover from patriarchy or culture patriarchy. The democratic system need new culture, need a new
Yes.
society, new perspective. So this is lead to this is a problem, lead to this contradiction. I want to study this is a problem.
Okay. This is important, yeah. And by the way, Putri, actually you're in here too, right? Putri, are you here? Putri?
Patriarchy.
Where's Putri? I thought you came in just now. Yeah, Putri, yeah, right. Okay. You're here too. So Putri is studying something similar to you, studying about religion as well. Yeah. It's also studying about religion as well, and democracy, religion and democracy, right? Now, Muhtadi, you're studying patriarchy, and then you're saying that democracy came in, 2003, after the US came in and invaded Iraq, and then there's a problem after that. There's an overlap, there's contradiction and all that, right?
Right.
So, are you studying the contradiction or are you studying the patriarchy? This is the question on the.
Okay.
Yeah.
I study both because
Study both.
until I want to explain contradiction, I need to explain what does mean patriarchy and the patriarchy how come out or how come to Iraq came to Iraq or came to this culture. So the first thing I need to explain deep think or deep understanding the patriarchy, the religious patriarchy, because this is a new concept according to my opinion. I need to establish to this from the deep history, human history up to now, and then explain how this is system or this social culture affected negatively in democratic system in Iraq and lead to contradiction.
Okay, so now we want to be clear, and you want to be clear as well. There's patriarchy, right? There's democracy, right?
Yeah.
And there's the contradiction that occurs from patriarchy and democracy. Okay.
Yes, right.
What is your focus? The patriarchy, the contradiction, or democracy?
A patriarchy and contradiction, because democracy just
Patriarchy and contradiction, these two, right? Patriarchy and contradiction. Okay. Since I'm not in front of you, otherwise we can use our work.
We don't have a problem with democratic system. We don't have a problem with the system. We have a problem with the culture.
Okay, all right. So this is key to your whole research. If you're researching the contradiction, phenomena of contradiction, the phenomena of instability, the phenomena of political chaos, right? The phenomena that's something else we're studying, right? Patriarchy can be something that leads to that political instability, political chaos, political whatever problems or crisis, whatever you want to call it, right? And
Right.
you know what I mean? So then your focus is this political or this contradiction. That is your focus. Then if you're studying patriarchy, this is not necessarily your focus. The contradiction is not your focus, right? But you can talk about the contradiction or what's happening to patriarchy right now because there is democracy coming in, right? Right, and patriarchy has been shaken or patriarchy is fighting back with democracy. You can talk about that. So your focus is still patriarchy. It's not a contradiction. You know what I mean? So you want to be clear. What then we can talk about your title. Otherwise, your title becomes, you know, otherwise you must lead your title, not your title leading you. The compass must lead the title, right? So you want to be clear first. So if you're studying patriarchy, right? So what you explained just now about the taqlid in Shia and then the religious patriarchy, Iraqi patriarchy or whatever, Shia patriarchy, then you can talk about patriarchy per se, right? But if you bring in democracy in it, right, you can just talk about how patriarchy is fighting back with democracy. For instance, maybe not, I don't know, right? So, but it's not about, you're not explaining the political instability, because once you explain, if you want to do that, it's a different research. Even study patriarchy is a different research, right?
Doctor, if I use this is religious patriarchy, maybe the examiner, they ask me, what does it mean religious patriarchy? I need to explain this concept, give us the explain in the history or the culture, and this is religious patriarchy. For this reason, so if I study just patriarchy, religious patriarchy, and okay, so my question, what's the problem in my research or my thesis? This is a question I can ask myself. So for this reason, I need to explain. I think I saw this is necessary. I need to explain the religious patriarchy first, from the history to Shia patriarchy, and then I want to say this is patriarchy, religious patriarchy, Shia patriarchy, based on the taqlid, lead to contradict with the democratic system. This system we received after 2003. So my question, I can study all these things in the same thesis or not?
Okay, let me help you to think about transcending this problem, like to go beyond the framing of the problem, right? You can go beyond the framing of your problem by focusing on patriarchy, but you can look at the evolution of patriarchy in Iraq. Because Iraq is still a patriarchal society, right?
Yes, it's still
Yes.
because we have
Society, right?
we have emulation, we have taqlid, we have also.
You still have that. You still have the influence from Shia. You still have the influence from religion, right? And you still have the. But then democracy is coming in also to influence patriarchy.
Come on, yes.
Yes, since 2003. But the country has not transformed. This is according to what you're saying, right? The country is transformed. The patriarchy is still very strong. Taqlid is still strong in Iraq, right? Perhaps it's going to be stronger too. You do not know, depending on who wins the election, right? So who wins the election? You might swing this side, might swing the other side, depending on who wins the election too, right? So
yes, and the accurate details they enter in the accurate details in the person's life. How can you use the toilet? How can you use swimming? How can you eat? How can you wear clothes? How can you eat, drink, or like this?
Okay. Let me help you with the conceptualization of the problem. So, your focus is not about the contradiction. Your focus is still about patriarchy, but the evolution of patriarchy in Iraq.
Okay. Yes.
Your evolution of patriarchy or patriarchy-led government or patriarchy-led culture in Iraq or something, but a patriarchal the idea of, so what you do is to show how Iraq has evolved, and in the evolution there's that instability, there's that contradiction which is now happening.
Yes.
But the overarching paradigm is still patriarchy.
Paradigm is the patriarchy.
Still, right, in Iraq, it's still patriarchy there, right? This is what I haven't been to Iraq, I don't know, so you know better and all that, right? Now, so if you look at your research question, right? So you reframe your research question into, what is the evolution of patriarchal society in Iraq? Yeah. So still brainstorming. Yeah, you can change. You can add, change, or whatever the direction is. What I'm just conveying to you is that you could, by framing it differently, you can still study what you're studying without losing the focus, right? So at the end, when it comes to Viva, you answer the question. You answer the question. It doesn't become complicated to answer the question, right? You can say, look, patriarchy Iraq has gone through 3 stages of patriarchy or 4 stages of patriarchy. At the beginning it was like this, then in 2003 there's the starting emergence of democratic principles, and now it's in a state of flux. There is no certainty. So it's up to you how you want to describe this. So, and when it comes to the Viva later on during the examination of Viva, you can answer the question, right? Because you have all your findings will be able to answer the question. That's the key now. So, my job is to make sure you succeed during the Viva. That's I don't lose sight of that. All my students are focused on Viva. Right? So
That's good.
to make sure that you can succeed and you will succeed, inshallah, during the Viva. So
Inshallah, thank you.
it's like I said this many times, right? It's almost like going to war. You don't want to create. You do not know whether I'm going to win or I'm going to lose this war, right? You want to design your research. You want to design your PhD, knowing that you will win your PhD, you will succeed in your PhD. You can answer your PhD. It's clear, it's clean, it's systematic. You can answer it. And by doing that, by looking at the evolution of patriarchy, then and then you can shift your research questions according to evolution of patriarchy or transformation of patriarchy. You can talk about that, right? So your focus never is still patriarchy, right? So everything that is affecting patriarchy, you want to explain that. Not everything, but the main things. We cannot talk about everything under the sun, but you want to talk about the main things that are affecting patriarchy. You explain that, right? And I see you have a lot of explanation there. You have captured a lot of explanation there. I also like the idea that you have this you have certain comparison between the religious patriarchy and the democracy, and you have the differentiation. So you can talk about all this contradiction that's coming in emerging since 2003 and how that has affected patriarchy in the society, in the Iraqi society. So I mean, are you okay with that? Are you clear with that? Is that
This is clear, but the question, the evolution of Shia patriarchy in Iraq, you know the Shia patriarchy. Came from Islamic patriarchy, because the Shia is the one sect of the Islamic. So the Islamic patriarchy and also Sunnah, the Sunnah sect has patriarchy same. So we talk about the system before democratic system. If I talk about patriarchy, I not mean this is I talk about negative or positive. I talk about social phenomena. This is what succeeds in that time before that stage in Islam or before Islam. This is succeed because this is the culture was like this, but now it's different. Because now it's different, this is lead to this is a problem because old system and the new system. So as I need to explain religious patriarchy in Islam, or before Islam in monotheistic religion, or before monotheistic religion, and the deep history in human, because the human history began with patriarchy. With matriarchy, and then transformed it to patriarchy, and still patriarchy up to the modernization in Europe, and then transferred from patriarchy to the citizenship or the social system or democratic system or like this. So for this reason, I suggested if I explain after this is when I began with my proposal, I want to explain the how patriarchy began after matriarchy, and then evolution, development, step by step, until he received to monotheistic religion, and then to Islam, patriarchy, Islam society, and then to Shia society, and then up to this is moment.
All right, all right. So this is where the other things I want to give my feedback to you. The things that still I make notes about what the other aspects of your proposals just now that I want to give my input to. You are asking a question of scope. How far do you want to go back to, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that is something that you want to conceptualize. You've got to decide, right? I mean, you can go for but Babylonian time, the Babylon is a long time ago. What is it? It is a very long established civilization, over there in Iraq, right? So there's before Islam, there's Arab as well. The Arab patriarchy is equally strong too, right? So there's or is there something about the culture there or something? So maybe you need to think about how you want to slice it, how you want to categorize it. So you can talk about, for instance, this is the example. Pre-Islamic time, and then during Islamic time, and then the modern era, which is the fall of Ottoman Empire, fall of Osmania, the fall of Osmania, and then you have Iraq, all the Arab states, and then 2003, the occupation, whatever you call it. You can talk about that, or you can start with the Osmania. You don't have to go back before that, right? You can talk about that. That's another way to slice it, right? So then you can talk about evolution in a systematic way, right? I'm not sure about the Islamic Empire, how it influenced the Osmania. Before that, there was some other kingdom in Iraq as well, and how did it come in? Iran will have a different history. They have the Persian Empire, right? But the Iraq falls under Arab world, right? It's part of the Arab world, so somewhat different, but not somewhat, very different, right, from Iran. However, there's one connecting factor there between Iran and Iraq, and some other parts of Arab, which is Shiite, right? Which is also has its own version of patriarchy, maybe not. So you want to explain that as well, right? And then uh, uh, how you so there's a time period, maybe 3 or 4 different periods, and then you need to decide why you choose those 3 periods, 4 periods, or 5 periods. I don't know how many periods are there, but it must be some logical reasoning. Right? Usually, it relates to some empire, or relates to some occupation, it relates to some cultural transformation. It usually relates to that. Okay, that is one about the temporal, the time evolution, right? But there is also the forces at work, the forces within the society. So there's forces that's ethnic or race that's related to Arab. There's religion that's related to Islam. There's I don't know what else you can talk about. You can talk about political ideology, maybe. There's maybe political ideology. Maybe it's different under Saddam or before Saddam. Maybe it's a different period at that time. I don't know. Maybe you can explain that. So there's a political force, there's ethnic or race, and there's a race, culture, religion, right? So I mean, you talk about Islam being patriarchy. I actually quote one good example, but I relate it to the Malay archipelago, the Nusantara, right? In Indonesia, the first admiral or woman admiral in the world, right, who commanded 100 ships, is a woman from Indonesia, from Aceh, right? So, and she fought against the Dutch, and the Dutch defeated at that time, right? So, it's an admiral, and the first woman admiral is from Indonesia, who's a Muslim, right? So I was framing it as a Nusantara, the Malay archipelago, the archipelago part of Southeast Asia, right? So it so it and you can call her a woman leader, you can call her a Muslim leader, you can call her an Indonesian leader. At that time, there's no Indonesia yet. You can call her Aceh. She's from Aceh, which is the northern part of Sumatra, very close to Penang, right? The northern province of Sumatra, northern province of Indonesia in Sumatra Island. So there are many ways to label her, and she was leading, and not her alone. She was leading in her crew. There are a lot of widowers, right? People whose husband died in the war and all that. That was part of a fleet to fight. Just like in China, there's Zheng He. In Indonesia, in Aceh, there's the Malahayati. Her name is Malahayati. So what I'm saying is this: there are other forces besides religion that's at work. It could be the what is it? The political culture, or the political struggle, or the political leadership. In which case, Malahayati, this woman admiral, she was a daughter of a king, of a sultan. It's a sultan, right? Or it could be also ethnic, religion, as in what is it? The culture, right? And the culture in Indonesia, you see, women are very active in economy, right? Right? For instance, or it could be a religion, right? Or it could be something else. So, you want to have the time explanation. You want to have the forces explanation in it too. There are different social forces at work. So, so when we talk about political sociology, we talk about political culture, we talk about political ideology. So there are different forces at work. So. And in Sumatra, in Indonesia, there's one ethnic called the Minangs, right? They are very matriarchal, matrilineal. They are women dominated. I've been there. The properties are owned by the women, not by the men.
Matriarchy.
Patriarchal, yeah, I've been there. I know that. I'm a descendant of that ethnic group, right? But I don't feel as strong a Minang a person as some Minang. But over there, if you marry a woman, you don't go to your father's side, you go to the women's side.
Mhm.
And you are a guest to their family. So and your lineage ends. When you leave your family, you go to the. So there's whole matriarchal society, and they are Muslim society, but the Minangs are Muslim society, and they are known for their the trading and all that. So there is the element of how religion and ethnic come together. Sometimes it clashes, sometimes it assimilates, and if you look the idea of Islam in this part of the world, the Nusantara Islam, a lot of time it overlaps with the culture, and you see that in Hinduism in this part of the world too. The Hinduism that's been practiced in Bali, the Bali island, is very different from the Hinduism that's practiced in India right now. In fact, I remember I brought my Hindu friend, Indian Hindu friend, to Bali, and they were celebrating the festive days. We don't have this festival in India in their religion, but because it's very old and it's adapted to the Balinese people, to the now Indonesian Balinese people. Right? So it's cultural adaptation, cultural synthesis, cultural what is it, acculturation, all these things happening. So maybe I from the outside, when you have the patriarchal forces of the political culture plus the patriarchal forces of religion in Islam, right? Plus the political forces of Arab, you combine, right? You might get Iraq there. So all the what's it, testosterone coming together, all the masculinity coming together, right? Uh, all in one there, right? So maybe all this, all the patriarchal forces, right, of each period come together stronger and stronger, stronger, become maybe not. So that can be your
Yes,
explanation.
because if you know, Doctor, why I said how the religious patriarchy affects the democratic system, because religious patriarchy is an integral part from the political patriarchy, because in that time the religion and policy same together. For example, especially in Islam, the Muhammad prophet is the prophet and the leader at the same time. Muhammad he established religion and established the state in the same time. And Muhammad is a prophet and everyone is follow Muhammad
Yes,
and
yes,
obeys Muhammad because he's a prophet. And
yes,
this is succeed or this is pass after Muhammad successor from Khilafah to fourth Khilafah. Also the policy in that time like political because the Khalifa is like Muhammad the Prophet and everything returned to Khalifa. For example, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq or Umar ibn Khattab or Uthman ibn Affan or Ali ibn Abi Talib. All of them is like Muhammad the Prophet. So I said the religion is not far away from policy and also policy not far away from religion, all the same together, especially in Islam, especially because Islam, he used both and he established empire, Umayyad Empire, Abbasiya Empire, Uthmani Empire, and that time. For this reason, always religious patriarchy, especially in Arab and Islam, in the Middle East, always uh, affected in the policy. Why? Because this is history, and this is
yes, yes,
history related with the religion, with the divine law. It's very complicated now. So
yes,
for the democratic system is like the related to this religious patriarchy system. So the conflict is existed between them. And the religious patriarchy need to reconcile with the democratic system. So, and this is reconciled, not succeed. Why? Because the system is different now. It's completely different.
yes,
Yes.
yeah. And
Hello,
oh, go
can
ahead.
I say something, Professor?
Yes, please, Tandis. Go.
Okay. Salam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Nice to meet you again, Professor, dear all, Brother Muhtadi.
Nice to meet you, Dandas. Thank you very much.
Okay. In advance, Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan
I-
Mubarak.
I'm proud of you, my brother Muhtadi, for being an unpleasant issue for Muslims men, patriarchy. Yeah. Clear example in Iran, if the father kills kids, and happened to Iran much more for girls who want married to somebody father don't like, he will not be punished, you know. And father supreme authority in Iran is very clear. But I think Khadija was first woman convert to Islam, and Fatima and Aisha, two powerful women in Islam. And we have two surah nominate for Surah Kawthar belonging to Hazrat Fatima, and Surah Maryam nominate for Hazrat Maryam. And patriarchy not come from Islam. Patriarchy come to culture, patriarchy society. It's my opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you so much.
thank you, Tandis. So
You're welcome.
thank you. That's a good point, Tandis raised there. So this is where the Muhtadi, you will need to explain which part is the theological, which part is the interpretation, the social interpretation of the theology itself, right? So Quran has so many verses and all that. Sometimes some people take certain parts and interpret it in a certain way and to suit the culture, to suit the power and all that. Sometimes it's not there. So you will need to make that logical argument, or that theological, social theological argument, right? Why do I call it social theological? Because in the sense that you're not doing a theology paper. You're not doing a philosophical theological paper. You're doing a social theological paper plus other papers, right? Papers or research rather. So the interpretation. So what's interesting is to see even when look at the Shia, why is the interpretation of Shia in Iran is different than from Iraq, different
Yeah.
maybe Yemen or Syria or Lebanon or whatever, other countries. So there's the interpretation, adaptation, and all that. So that's actually a crucial part of your research to talk about the forces of patriarchy and where patriarchy emerged and all that. So what is it I want to say? And patriarchy as a system as well, which I did not talk yet about it. Patriarchy as a system as well. There is no absolute patriarchy as there is absolute matriarchy or democracy or socialism. It's not absolute. It's often a mixture. And the mixture is, maybe balance would be 60-40, 40-60, 50-50, but imbalance would be 90-10. There's always some other elements beside that. It's not 100% patriarchy. There's always a joke about military, and I come from a military family. If the husband is a colonel, the wife is a general. His husband is a colonel, colonel, right? So the wife is actually higher than the husband, because the wife can command the husband at home. The husband might be a big general outside of the home. When he comes back home, he becomes a second in command in the home. The home is always the boss is always the woman, supposedly. Right? There's a joke about military folks. So the point there is that the absolute patriarchy doesn't exist, absolute democracy doesn't exist, right? But we do have dominant. So the word dominant is actually an important word to use, right? So I do want to go through certain points with you, Muhtadi, before we go in with continue our discussion. Hold on with the discussion again. let's look at your title again.
Doctor, but I think I submitted to you my paper by paper, not by file online. I want
Okay.
want just you write your notice in this paper and give me maybe can motivate my writing with your notice.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
But you do that after my comment.
But yes, after your comments, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Okay.
after my feedback to you. Yeah.
This title.
All right. So religious patriarchy and political modernity, Shia of Iraq and problematic the Taqlid and citizenship. Okay. Um, uh, can the main title be something like this? To transcend this, you can put everything underneath that. The evolution or the transformation of patriarchy in Iraq. That's the general title, but you can change it accordingly. And then you have the subtitle. You can have the subtitle. The main title is evolution or the transformation of patriarchy in Iraqi society.
Okay.
Iraqi society. So you take society instead of country, because society exists even before country.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
you can talk about because the Iraqi society belongs to the Arab society, belong to the Muslim society, belong to the world society as well. You know, the global society, right? So the evolution or the transformation of patriarchy in Iraqi society, and then beneath that, you can play around with which one you want to focus. You can talk about the complexity of Taqlid, citizenship, democracy, or whatever. You can talk about that, and then we will play with the second title. The first title is mainly about that, right?
If you change it, this is the first title. We can affect it on my writing, or you can see that, Victor. You can see that if you look to my paper with you.
Yes.
Yes.
So then once you have that as a title, right? You have that clarity, and when it comes to the presentation to the committee also knows that this is the focus of your work, and then everything else, and all the you can choose different puzzles, different parts where you want to put under this transformation of patriarchy, right? So we can talk about how this transformation has affected democracy, or democracy has affected this transformation. You can talk about that. You can talk about Taqlid. You can talk about the separation or the combination of Umarah and Ulama, right? So what you see in some Muslim countries is the separation of two, right? The Umara and Ulama, right? The political leadership and the religious leadership is separated. In some Muslim countries, is combined, right? Maybe Iran is combined. The much more closer, perhaps, right? So you have the more like the shura system, right? The ruling decision makers are ulama, and then the political leaders come under that, right? Now, what's interesting, like Muhtadi, even Sweden, I've been number of times in Sweden. Sweden became a secular state only in 1986, quite recently, right? Before that, it was a Christian state, right? It has the oldest monarchy in the world. Right? The longest serving monarchy in the world is in Sweden. So you can actually see the king is the son of the son. It can go back up. So there's the political hierarchy. There's the religion that come in, right? That's interesting. So how could a country like Sweden, which is very peace-loving and very democratic and socialistic at the same time, right? It is not very capitalistic. They are not a very capitalism kind of country, right? can reconcile between religion, between monarchy, and between free market and democracy, human rights. It's fascinating to see that, right? And I usually critique the Western society, Western model, right? But if there's a group of countries that we can study, we can learn from, is the Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Finland, Norway. Those are good. They not completely, but there are certain aspects of the countries that's good to study. So if you want to look at a country that has reconciled religion, the political, because monarchy is a bit different from democracy, right? The French Revolution is about overthrowing the monarchy, right? They actually overthrow the monarchy, but the British was smart enough, the monarchy, it runs away from the ruling, it becomes a constitutional monarchy, right? So it's separate from the, it doesn't become a republic, it is still a kingdom, right? In that sense. So the point here is to see how the evolution of patriarchy in the context of what you want to talk about. So the evolution can include what you said just now, the taklid, and how it is patriarchal dominated taklid, right? You can talk about that, or patriarchal dominated political leadership or religious leadership. So you can all talk about the evolution of that. And just now you were showing me of the differences, and you can track the differences how the evolution occurs throughout the 3 periods or 4 periods of evolution of transformation, and that will be a very good thesis to have to explain the Iraqi society. I think there's a very good explanation. And so I want to go to a higher level discussion with you. You talk about the deductive research strategy. Right? The more I listen to you, the more I read your work, the more I think your work is not deductive, your work is retroductive, similar to Muzakir. Retroductive, because the idea now, Muhtadi, is that if you look at the empirical data, right, the surface, the phenomena is called patriarchy. Generative mechanisms, there are few generative mechanisms, things that are creating this patriarchy. There's the cultural forces, which is part of mechanism that's creating this patriarchy. There's the political forces or political generative mechanism that is also creating this phenomenon. There's the religious culture, religious structure that's also influencing this patriarchy, right? So, and each of these, right? I'm just playing with the structure, each of these has its values, each of these has its actors, each of this has its structure. So the religious forces has its values, has its people, actors, has its structure. There's a structure to it too, right? Same with the political side, same with the religious side too. So I'm looking at this, I see more when you explain the evolution, right? You can see the different forces at work. Maybe under Saddam, it's much more political. The political force is much more the generative mechanism.
Yes,
right. Whether you like Saddam or not, there's a different matter. There's a different story, right? But you can
because Saddam is patriarchy system, political. I mean,
political, but it's still patriarchy. It's still patriarchy. But he was controlling the religion at the time.
Yes.
The religious patriarchy is not as strong as his political patriarchy. The way I see it, I might be wrong, right? Okay.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
So these are different, almost like different fire burning this patriarchy thing, right? Fuming this patriarchy thing, right? So your work comes closer to retroductive research strategy, right?
Right.
So
I should change the methodology. I mean,
that's right. That will be my recommendation to you, to change it, the methodology. You can also take Muzakir's thesis and look at how he writes his.
yes. I will communicate with him.
And then he also talks about the transformation, the different transformation. I think he talked about 3 periods of the university transformation. So he was looking at organizational analysis of the university, right? And then that suits very well with historical sociology, which is what you're studying. And that suits very well with Weber's theory of charismatic, traditional, charismatic, and modern bureaucracy leadership, right? So, you can come up with at the end, your thesis is about explaining the evolution and the generative mechanisms that are affecting the patriarchy, the evolution of patriarchy in Iraqi society, right?
Yes, we have 3 mechanisms. Culture, Arab culture, tribe, and clans. This culture is based on patriarchy, and also political, as you said. For example, Saddam Hussein. This is buried. Saddam Hussein. He's a very strong political and patriarchy political control all our things in Iraq. And also religion. We have religion also support the patriarchy. And also, I said I need to explain this point again. If I talk about patriarchy, I'm not talking about both positive or negative. Maybe patriarchy is better to some society. Maybe patriarchy is better than democratic system, because the democratic system or democratic social democratic also they suffer from many problems nowadays.
Maybe not.
Patriarchy. If I said Islam is patriarchy, I not mean criticize Islam. No, not mean. I not mean that. I talk about the social structure here. It's better sometimes. The patriarchy is better sometimes if the patriarchy used is good, correct, or good way.
Yes.
This system lead to the problems, lead to the many problems. This use, for example, during Muhammad prophet rule, and during Khulafa Rashidin rule, we have a good government, good state, good society. We have justice. We have good distribution. The economy, the money. Despite the system is patriarchy. But after that, the disuse system by policy lead to many problems.
Yeah. Now, the 2 things here, Muhtadi, that we being, scholars of social science, right? We want to be able to not to be, what is it I want to say something because we believe in it, just because we believe in it, right? Because we are in the field of social science. So there must be some logic to the explanation. So it is, I do not deny, certain parts of Islamic teachings are very patriarchal. The witness thing, the distribution of wealth, it is a patriarchal definition of patriarchy. It fits very well, right? And what you said is, what you said just now is good, because a particular structure serves a particular purpose within a particular context. So it is good and functional or positive, whatever you want to use, right, within a certain context, right? The matriarchal society is not completely good either. It's completely good either, right? yeah, because I've seen that too. So, so where the decision makers are all women. So, or it depends on how you want to make your argument, right? Because right now, your work is not necessarily a normative work. You're not necessarily prescribing you should follow patriarchal or we should follow matriarchal, right? Maybe what's good is to have a balance between two, right? But that's another story you can tell, and that will be in your chapter 6, not your
Yes.
chapter 5, not your chapter 4, not your, it is in your discussion chapter, and you can argue the way you want to argue what you want to argue in your chapter 6 or chapter 7, right? The analysis, right? So if you want to know my own thought, well, there's certain things men are good at as far as leadership is concerned. There's certain things women are good at as far as leadership is concerned, right? And there's scientific studies to this too, right? I mean, women tend to be more ethical than men. When it comes to ethics, right? Integrity, women tend to be to show more integrity, more ethics than men. So if you want to place the right person, the right place, that kind of thing. But there's also not, it's almost sometimes, we in social sciences, we get bogged down with one identity to explain everything. So it's not just about men and women, it's about what kind of training, what kind of education, what kind of moral values, what kind of class, what kind of, other factors come in, not just gender, there's other factors come in. So I'm with you, Muhtadi. It's okay.
I think the gender is the last button, the gender. The first one, and the man dominate over man. I mean, leaders, cleric, or leader of political, or the social culture. This is over dominate of man. So, for example, uh, how can teach people to obey the prophet? If they obey a prophet, this is in Patriarchy. The prophet is the father, and then the people, all people follow this prophet. I mean, I talk about religion now. So the prophet control spiritual in the man, and then man control spiritual in women. This is link with the another ring. So if you talk about political, I mean, the president here is father. If you talk about the dictatorial political, and the leader or the president is the father, and this is with the law and with the power control over the society and over man, and also the man control over the women. So the ring link with the other ring. If you talk about the culture inside the tribe and the clan, and also the sheikh, if you know this is word, sector, in Arab we use sheikh. This is sheikh, the leader of a tribe or the leader of a clan, and all the society or all the individuals and inside this tribe, they follow this sheikh. You're right. So this is mechanism, culture or policy or religion. We talk about whole system.
Yes, the whole system. Now, there's one more thing that if you want to consider is, and oftentimes it becomes a generative mechanism in many, if not most societies, and that's the economic.
You're right. You're right.
Right.
Yes.
So there's also the economic structures is also very patriarchal.
Yes.
Very patriarchal too, right? So the only thing, the example I gave you in the one in Indonesia, the Minang family, the Minang community, they take that away from the men. The property is not owned by the men. Property is owned by the woman, and it's passed from the mother to daughter, not mother to son. Son doesn't have property rights. So the economic power is to the women. So there's the house belongs to the woman, everything. So maybe there's another aspect that you want to consider, the economic structure, right? Within
Yes, economic. Yes, you're right. I will mention that.
So let me go through a bit more with your presentation, Muhtadi.
Okay.
You do want to check your grammar. If you go to after this one, you go to the next slide. There's some grammar issues. No, before that. The second
Which
slide.
one?
Before this. Before pronunciation. Before that. This is after. Before.
Before?
The second slide. The second slide.
This?
Yeah. See, look here. The religious patriarchy. This means there's a. So you check the grammar before you make sure all your grammar is right. So the language sentence grammatical errors. There's some grammatical errors here, right? So it should be this means. There's an S there, right? Singular noun has singular tense. So individuals inequality, that's also not quite right. So individual equality, or just put equality there, right? So just go through the grammar of the PowerPoint, right? Yeah, okay. And then you talk about the 12. Where's the 12?
This?
Yeah, is that the? I'm not sure there's a right spelling. You just double check whether there's a right spelling.
Or 12.
Just double check, yeah. The spelling, I'm confused myself, right? And is that the right terminology? The 12 is that the right term?
Yes, because in Shia we have also many sects, not one sect.
Okay.
The majority of sects in Shia, the 12th Shia.
All right. Okay.
We have, for example, Zaydiyya, Ismailiyya.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So just to make sure that's a technical term. Then let's go to your terminologies. That's the next one. All right. I'm not sure that your label of terminologies is quite right here. No, not problem statement. The terminologies is not. Terminologies usually would refer to the terms that you want to use. In this case, you were having connection or explanation about under the 12 Shia, there's religious patriarchy, taqlid, and all that. So this looks more like a framework rather than terminologies, right? So because and then you talk about political modernity, introduce citizenship. The 12 Shia, there's introduce citizenship. So the terminologies is about terms and how you explain the terms, right? So maybe the word here is not terminology, unless you want to explain the terminology. And if you want to explain the terminologies, you don't need to put the lines there. To put the lines, right? You just explain the terminologies, which is fine. If you don't put the lines, you do not show that this is about that, it's about this, then be fine, right?
Can I base this is accord with the concept?
What's that? Say that again, please.
Can I use concepts rather than
Concepts? Yes, you can use concepts. Yeah, you can use concepts. Sure. You can use concept, but okay.
12 the third 12 or 12?
12. Here, that's why I don't know. You want to check. You want to check literature. The literature is 12 or 12. 12 meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 12. The 12.
That's right. But we have 12 Imam and Shia 12. They believe in 12 Imam.
Okay. All right. So what you do, Muhtadi, you check the literature. You use the literature. What the literature says, yeah? You use the standard word they use in the literature.
Okay.
The point here I want to say is maybe you are referring to the mindset or something now, the 12 Shia mindset. Or if you want to explain about the 12 Shia, then you can have the concept that you can explain that, it's fine. If you want to explain about mindset, you put in the word mindset or mind or ideology or consciousness. I'm not sure what you want to use, what you want to focus on. Yeah. The other thing you talk about was the idea of Imam Mahdi. Imam Mahdi.
Yes.
I know that there's Mahdi in the Shia tradition. There's Mahdi, right? There's also
The last Imam, the 12th Imam.
the 12th Imam in this who has not,
Yes.
and there's also the Mahdi that has not come yet. The Mahdi will
Come again.
Will come again.
Yes, in future.
In the future, right? Together with Jesus. Yeah, the Messiah.
Yes, come with Jesus. Together.
Yeah, the Messiah. Okay.
Messiah, yes, right.
Messiah. Yeah, okay. So you do need to explain that so that it's clear, so that people do not get confused. Is this somebody in the past, or is this somebody in the future, or
Because it's the same person.
Same person, okay. So
yes, he born in the past, and just let me, Doctor, explain. 265, I think, he born 265 AH Hijriya, Sana Hijriya, he born, and he upset then, according to the Shia heritage or Shia faith, he absent, and when he absent, the authority transferred to Ayatollah, to cleric, to Mujtahideen.
okay.
This now is the beauty of Imam Mahdi, and they wait Imam Mahdi come again in the future.
Okay, all right.
All religious behavior or religious vision, political vision, the world vision based on this is theory of occultation, al-ghaiba, theory of Imam absent.
Yes.
Theory of Imam absent. So they Imam absent because the sins of people, and people will failure, and people will not access to rule themselves by themselves, and then will come Imam Mahdi, the same person he absent in the past. He come in the future with Jesus, and together will open the world and will rule the world by justice and equality.
Okay.
This is theory.
This is the teaching.
So the Ayatollah now is like ministers.
All right. They are the custodian, the one that is waiting for the Imam to come, right?
Yes, the cleric are the people. Shia people, all Shia people wait Imam come.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's true too for this part of the Muslims on this part of the world too, including Malaysia. But then Malaysia doesn't have Khomeini. That's the difference.
Yes, the Sunnah also believe in Imam Mahdi. But
Yes. Well, of course. The Sunnis believe in Imam Mahdi too. So the Jews believe in the Messiah too. So
yes, also yes.
The Abrahamic religion kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Go. Yeah. Explain that. Okay. Deductive to retroductive. I have made note that, and so you explain that. You want to check your grammar. There are certain parts of it. I don't have to tell you, but then you do need to go through a bit to make sure that the grammar is right. So I don't need to talk about it. Scope. We discussed scope just now. The different periods. So you need to think about what different periods you want to identify in your research, right? So
Scope and limitations.
no. What I mean scope here is temporal periods. How far you want to go back in your research, right? How far you want to go back? So you want to go back Saddam time, or one period before Saddam, or two periods before Saddam, or Saddam is bigger part of the period, or can talk about that too. Or you can talk about Arab Spring, right? You can talk about that. Whether there's any significance to that as well. I'm not sure whether there's any significance to that. Right? Okay. I wanted to say something just now. Can you go? can you go back to all right. Observation. There's an observation, yeah. You did say that you want to do observation. You can go back to 2003. You still remember and all that, right? Because you were there when the United States went to or invaded Iraq, right? I would omit that statement because
Before observation, doctor, I want to ask you, I should use the mixed method or just quantitative?
so okay for retroductive research strategy, right? Retroductive research strategy, you don't even need to what is it? Yeah, it's not the method is not a method that is confined by quantitative or qualitative. You use both, right? So you can call it mixed method, but not mixed method in a traditional sense of the design. Usually mixed method we talk about explanatory and then exploratory, right? But retroductive research strategy is much more dynamic than that. You can start with data or theory and it keep on going many loops, right? You can go theory, data, theory, data, theory, and collect data from the quantitative, collect data from the qualitative. So to answer your question, yes, it's the mixed method, but that is not the preoccupation of your work. So you will be able to, or you'll be asked under retroductive research strategy to collect both qualitative and quantitative data, right? And you're not limited to just interview, documents, analysis, surveys, secondary data. You can use that as well. Now, the part that I want to tell you is about observation.
Okay.
When we say observation, we mean observation that is systematic, that's methodical, right? There's a method to carry out observation. So observation here often requires you to have field notes, right? So you do not want to say you have carried out observation or you can do observation since 2003 because you were not doing research in 2003. But you can collect data on 2003 or before that, right? But not necessarily through observation. Your observation at that time was not observation of the social scientist. So
Yes, right.
You know what I mean? So when we talk about observation, there's a method to observation. There's a system to observation as well. So the participant or non-participant observation, are you doing observation, field observation? Are you not doing field observation? Are there field notes you take? So there are aspects of observation that must be systematically documented. So I would avoid that. So you do not have to have that problem later on in your Viva, right? So, but you can take other people's observation. You can ask interviews. You can do that. There's no problem with that. Right? So, but you do not want to use the word observation since you're there, right? And the last part may be a small part, but the last technical bit, you use the word researcher and I interchangeably, right? Sometimes you use the word researcher, sometimes you use the word I. So stick to one pronoun. So is it I or is it researcher? If you use a researcher, keep it to researcher. If you use I, you continue to use I. Now, in USN, we usually use the word researcher because we tend to be more British in our language, and British seldom use I in this type of writing. The Americans use I. Yeah, I use I before when I did my work.
What do you use? We?
No, you you can use you use researcher just now, right?
Researcher.
You use researcher just now, so you stick to researcher is fine.
It's
The
okay.
researcher, yeah. So researcher is safe, right? Instead of I. Although I don't have problems when you use I, but then the examiner sometimes they prefer the word the researcher. So we just be safe to use the word researcher. Okay. I do think you have something very substantive right now. It's just matter of rearranging your thoughts based on my input just now. Maybe now Muhtadi, you don't need to make another presentation. Once you're ready, you I think you give yourself 1 week to improve, and then week after next, you communicate with Madam or Puan Roshima, and ask to schedule a proposal presentation, proposal defense, right?
Okay. Okay.
So
That's good
today
news.
is what? Today is 30th, or today is Wednesday. Is 1 week enough for you to make all these changes?
It's
Maybe.
enough, but based on I received the paper from you and your comments on this paper, comments in the title, and comments in the research question, and comments in the methodology. That's very important comments. Three.
Yeah.
Okay, Doctor?
Now, also the methodology there, is not just changing the word from deductive to retroductive, but also using the retroductive research strategy framework to carry out your research. Meaning you use the terminologies of research of retroductive research methodology, like the generative mechanism, like the those terms, right? So like we were discussing just now, we can talk about three possible generative mechanisms, right? Or four
Four.
generative mechanisms.
Culture, economy, policy, religion.
And religious, yeah. So you can talk about that. So you got to put that into your PowerPoint as well, right? So to explain, so you in your PowerPoint you have different parts that you explain. Now frame it according to retroductive research strategy. So you're clear. Can you show me the conceptual framework you have? Conceptual framework.
Okay.
Yeah, not this one. Maybe after this one, yeah. Yeah, there. Go up. Slow, go down.
This is Doctor.
Not that one. Not this one. The
This?
one, not this one. The other one. Go down. Further down. Further down. Further down. Further down. Further down. Further down. Slow. Okay, one more down. Yeah, all right. There you go. Oh no. All right. Okay. This is Max Weber theory, right? Okay,
Right.
so what do you want to say? So you have what you want to show as a possible model of explanation, right? Is you want to show this is not it. This is not it. You want to show that you have this four mechanisms, four possible mechanisms, right? Four possible mechanisms, and then these four possible mechanisms are present throughout the 3 periods or 4 historical periods, whatever, how many historical periods you have. So you have that kind of a visual to explain that. You know what I'm saying now? So you have the economic, social cultural.
Doctor, okay. I use that before after this I can use the diagram to show the mechanism affected in religious patriarchy. Okay.
Let me draw something for you now.
Okay.
Cultural, political, religious, economic mechanism. Mechanism. So this is the patriarchy. Period 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Can you see? Can you see? See that?
Not clear.
See that?
Not clear, Doctor.
Not clear. So at the bottom there.
Save this paper. Save it, please. I will receive from you. By hand.
I can see that. I put it closer now. I know some bit. Okay. You see at the bottom there are 4. There are 3 layers.
Okay. I now see.
Layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. Right?
Yes.
Layer 1 is the fire. The fire, the power. Remember I talked about the magnet? The power of magnet is
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Yeah? And this is like the 4 magnets. The 4 magnets.
Yes.
Right? At top there is the patriarchy.
Right.
Is your Iraqi society at the top. That's the phenomena. Phenomena is at the top, right? Now, the middle is what's happening, the dynamics, the process. Right? The process. So you have all the power, and the power interact with certain contexts, and because of the interaction of the context, you have patriarchal manifestation at the top. Maybe under Saddam, political power is stronger, so patriarchal manifestation is different. Post Saddam, the magnets are different, or one particular magnet becomes stronger, the other political magnet becomes less, so, for example, and then there's interaction to the context, maybe there's influence from outside or whatever, so the manifestation of the patriarchal society is also different. So there's layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, right? But this is just a model. You haven't carried out the research yet. So you just to explain the possible or the proposed model, right? So you will only know for sure when you carry out the research, right? So you will know what happens, economic power, or economic structure, or economic mechanism, and you will know that for sure once you carry out the research. And it evolves, it transforms from one period to another period. So if you look at this one here, I say periods. Okay? Period 1, period 2, period 3. So maybe there's 3 periods, maybe there's 4 periods, maybe there's 5 periods. It's up to you how you want to define it. Right? You want to make it simple, 3 periods, right? Prior to Saddam, during Saddam, post Saddam, right? You can talk about.
But Doctor, I think I need to explain this with my after the methodology. This is my work, and this is my scope of work, my fundamental of work, right?
So what happens is retroductive research strategy, right, is a type of strategy that combines data and theory.
Okay.
Combines data and theory, right? So within that methodology itself, it's already a theory. It's already a theory. The mechanism is a theory, right? But what type of theory? That depends on the mechanism. If it's political, you need political theory. If it's religious, you need religious theory, right? You know what I mean? But the big framing is the reproductive research framing.
Right.
But what you have there if you produce something like that, it's very clear, it's very powerful, it's original. It's original, right? Because you bring in a lot. It's very comprehensive, very holistic. You just need one of this in your slide, one slide to explain this. So and the committee members will understand. Oh, okay, you're looking at this one. You're looking at the evolution or transformation of it, right? So you need just one slide of that, and that slide can be under retroductive research strategy, right? So
Yes.
yeah. Anything else you want to ask me, or
I mean,
I say 1 week. It can be more than 1 week. Up to you. It depends on maybe 10 days or something. But
okay, Doctor. Okay, but concept stay
right?
same. Concept. I mean, stay same. I use this is concept. You know, I showed you. This is concept same. Stay together the same, or I can
You can use this. You can. Meaning,
okay, I will change them. Based on the title will change.
Sure. Because religious patriarchy has existed before, even during Saddam Hussein existed as well, right?
Yes.
Maybe it is strong, but not very, very strong. Maybe, I don't know, right? So, I know that kind of thing. Yeah. So, like I give you example of the generative mechanism of patriarchy, but the generative mechanism is not just generative mechanism of patriarchy, right? It can be generative mechanism of modernity also in there, right? Because Iraq is not some country somewhere unknown backward.
Of course, because we received the modern state, the first
It's a modern state
in the Middle East or in the Arab.
Yes, it's a modern state.
After British invasion, after British invasion, we have modernity.
There are modern institutions in Iraq as well, right?
Yes, right.
So that should also be part of it. So yes, 2003 there was some drastic change, but even during Saddam or even before the Saddam, there were some institutions, modern institutions too, right? There were universities, there were
yes,
ports.
Right.
Anyways, that's the. I hope you have better clarity of your research now. Or the direction of your research.
What?
Do you have better clarity? That's important. Are you clear with your?
Yes, I need to more clear according to the motivation, according to these comments. I need to yes reconsider in my PowerPoint.
All right.
And also in my writing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. You have something very substantive though. It's just matter.
Yes. Please, Doctor, if tomorrow will come to CenPRIS, give with you. This is paper.
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, you can. Yeah, pass it to me.
Yes.
All right. Anyone else want to share your thoughts as well? It's been more than 2 hours now, which is okay. Right. Anyone else? Who's that? Tandis.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Brother Muhtadi.
Thank you, Tandis, for your comment. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. If there's no other comments, we will call it a day. Agenda. We will arrange for another time. I will let you all know ahead of time. Fasting month is coming. Ramadan is coming. So this is where we have more time because we have more time. You don't have to think about food that much, right, during the day. So
yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll see you all. Okay. Assalamualaikum. Good.
Assalamualaikum. See you, Doctor. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. خدا حافظ. Allah في الاستثمار.
Chang. See you.
See you.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Yefeng, see you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Rajiv, for coming in.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Okay, Leah. Thank you. Bye. I'll end the meeting now. Okay, Samir, you look slimmer, Samir. You look slimmer. Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Dear Professor.
Bye. Bye.